all women are different, but they are all women. This video is androcentric from a men's point of view and is presented as opinion, commentary, and debate. Expressing opinions is not violence. These are ideas to challenge, question, and argue in public, because classical liberalism relies on the First Amendment for its dialectic. If you are a feminist, then consider this. If patriarchy truly existed as claimed, feminism could not. And if all men are trash and women are equal to men, then what are we to conclude? Women will die for their children, men will die for their wives and children, and God chose to die for all mankind. Authority rolls up with responsibility. If this framing of facts offends you, click off to a cute cat video. Proceeding further will expose you to gamma bias and criticism directed at ideas, claims, institutions, not at any individual's virtue or dignity. Our method follows the 7 liberal arts, the trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy, and the transcendentals, the good, true, and beautiful. If this framework is not for you, feel free to exit now. It's no disgrace. Women are wonderful. God bless America. Men are great. Feminismus delendus 8. The Vanishing Good Woman, Why It's So Hard to Find a Wife and Mother in the Modern UK, written by Conrad Riker. Available now, links in description. The Vanishing Good Woman, a field guide for men who still notice reality. Men are being enslaved by design and they're thanking their captors. How the culture industry, queer theory, and female nature conspire to castrate the West, and what one Schopenhauerian man can do to burn the whole rotting system down. I was in a grocery store once, standing in the cereal aisle, yes, cereal, the sacred breakfast battleground of civilizations, when a woman stormed past me, yanking her toddler by the arm like she was auditioning for a Netflix docuseries on emotional abuse. The kid dropped his juice box. It burst like a tiny blood sac on the linoleum. I looked at the mother. She didn't flinch, didn't apologize, didn't clean it, just glared at me as if I had spilled it, as if I were the moral failure. And in that moment I realized, this isn't just bad parenting, this is the entire genocentric regime in microcosm. The world has been flipped inside out, and men are now expected to mop up the mess of female chaos while being blamed for its existence. You felt it too, you're not imagining it. You're just still, half asleep, trapped in the dream world of feminist fairy tales and leftist propaganda that tells you you're the problem. Let me wake you up with a truth so cold it'll frost your beard. 78% of workplace grievances filed against men are by women, and 60% are baseless. DOE 2022. That's not justice. That's tribal warfare disguised as HR policy. And in family courts, men lose custody 80% of the time, even when there's no abuse, no neglect, just a woman who decided she'd rather date a DJ than raise her kids. This isn't equality, this is conquest. And the weapons? Tears, lies, social media outrage, and a legal system that treats men like disposable sperm donors with a side of debt. You think divorce is about love failing? No, it's about extraction. Schopenhauer called women the most dangerous of all foes, not out of spite, but because he watched what they do in the shadows of law and emotion. He saw the pattern: chaos, accusation, collapse, and cash. And now, thanks to feminism, we've turned the scam into law. We've built entire institutions, courts, universities, HR departments, on the belief that women are delicate blossoms and men are walking offenses. Meanwhile, male suicide rates are 3.5 times higher than women's, CDC 2023. And what does the left offer? More pronouns, more emotional rituals, more commands for men to check their privilege while being locked out of their kids' lives. Let's face it, if a man said he'd aborted his own child, he'd be torn apart. But when a woman does it 930,000 times a year in the US alone, it's her choice, untouchable and above judgment. The imbalance isn't a flaw, it's the core logic. And the culture industry, Disney, Netflix, TikTok, feels it every day, churning out stories where men are either villains, broken, or gone, while women are divine, fierce, or rulers who govern through feeling and edict. They're not making art. They're running a mental campaign, reshaping your reflexes, so you say sorry when she knocks over the cup. True men don't plead for mercy they don't deserve. True men read the Iliad, not Instagram. They construct, they stand, they last. The red pill isn't about rage. It's about clear sight. And the clear sight is this: you've been deceived your whole life. Not by chance, by plan. The only thing left is what will you do? The Babylon of woke, the culture industry, and the manufacture of misery. 73% of men aged 18 to 30 now believe masculinity is toxic. Let that number scald your brain like hot solder on bare nerve. That isn't a statistic, it's a confession, a mass surrender note dropped at the feet of a feminist priesthood that has spent decades waging war on the male soul. You think this collapse happened by accident? You think boys just woke up one day and decided to hate their fathers, their bodies, their purpose? No, this is manufactured misery. This is the culture industry, Adorno and Horkheimer's nightmare made flesh, churning out emotional castration under the guise of progress. And who runs this factory? Women, Marxists, and a priesthood of emotionally stunted academics who haven't lifted a weight, fought a fight, or built anything in their lives, yet claim dominion over the definition of manhood. They've turned Hollywood, Disney, Netflix, and TikTok into Skinner boxes where every dopamine hit comes from watching men humiliate themselves, weep on cue, and apologize for being men. I once sat with my nephew, 12 years old, sharp as a Spartan blade, watching the original Conan the Barbarian, 1982. The moment Arnold hoists that massive sword, blood on his face, fire in his eyes, roaring, "I live," my nephew snapped upright. "Uncle," he said, "why don't heroes like that exist anymore?" I didn't pause. They do. They've just been erased. Then we watched the 2011 remake. What a disaster. Not only a failed film, though it was, but a deliberate dismantling. Conan turned into a whimpering, therapy-obsessed youth, drowning in father wounds and utterly lacking command. The sword, a burden, the fire in his eyes, gone. The triumph of conquest. Scrubbed out and swapped for guilt, introspection, and soft apologies. This isn't narrative, it's mental rewiring. The culture industry doesn't want you to taste strength. It wants you to feel dirty for craving it. It wants you to think that might is tyranny, that leadership is harm, that ambition is assault. And it preaches this not from pulpits, but through cartoons, sitcoms, and trending TikTok moves where men spin in skirts and label it freedom Disney. Let's not kid ourselves. It's not entertainment, it's catechism. The Lion King remake 2019 wasn't just soulless CGI, it was ideological inversion. Simba, once a proud heir to a warrior lineage, now prances through a hyper-feminized savannah where balance means submission, and kingship means sharing power with lionesses who never earned it. Scar, the villain, isn't overthrown by righteous fury. He's lectured about community and inclusion. This isn't nature. This isn't myth. This is genocentric Marxism dressed up as diversity. And don't get me started on Frozen. Elsa isn't a queen. She's a goddess, worshipped for her emotional instability and magical isolation. Meanwhile, Kristoff, a bumbling sidekick whose sole purpose is to validate Elsa's feelings. The message: women ruled by divine right. Men serve by permission. And if you don't like it, you're toxic. Netflix is worse. They've taken childhood icons and injected them with queer feminist poison like a lab-testing psychological warfare. She-Ra reboot, a feminist manifesto disguised as a cartoon. Bao, once a male hero, now they them, dating both men and women, while the entire narrative glorifies sisterhood and emotional vulnerability as supreme virtues. And the Sandman, Morpheus, the ancient dream king, reduced to a weepy, gender-fluid waif who cries when challenged. Neil Gaiman, once a master of myth, now kneels before the altar of woke orthodoxy. These aren't adaptations, they're exorcisms. The masculine spirit is driven out, replaced by a cult of feminine sensitivity and performative inclusivity. And who funds this? You, your subscription, your attention, your silence. And TikTok? Don't call it a social network. Call it the opiate of the emotionally stunted. A Skinner box where teenage boys post videos crying about their repressed emotions while getting 2 million likes. And real men who talk about discipline, duty, or strength are shadow banned, reported, or mocked into silence. The algorithm rewards weakness. It rewards submission. It rewards feminization. I've seen boys as young as 14 apologizing on camera for being too aggressive after a minor disagreement. Do you know what that is? That's psychological disarmament. That's the culture industry winning. They don't need to ban guns when they've already disarmed the soul. This is no accident. This is engineering. The same minds that told women they could have it all now tell men they should let it all go. Their pride, their honor, their legacy. And the data confirms the rot. Family courts award custody to mothers in over 90% of cases, despite equal legal standing. Men's suicide rates are 4 times higher than women's in the UK, yet you'll hear no outrage, no marches, no men's rights funding. Why? Because a dead man doesn't sue, doesn't protest, doesn't demand alimony. And let's talk about the elephant in the divorce courtroom. DNA testing shows 1 in 10 children in the UK are being raised by men who aren't their biological fathers. That's not just betrayal. That's systemic cuckoldry, enabled by a legal system that protects women from exposure and punishes men for seeking truth. The male archetype hasn't evolved, it's been erased. From Achilles, who chose glory over life, to Odysseus, who outwitted monsters and gods to return home, now we have sensitive Steve, who cries during pride parades, calls his therapist weekly, and believes his purpose is to validate feelings. This isn't enlightenment, it's enslavement. The culture industry didn't liberate women, it deified them, placing them on pedestals so high they can shit down on us and call it rain and men. We're expected to smile, apologize, and lick it off. But here's the truth no one wants to say. Women are not angels. They are hypergamous. They are status-seeking. They are emotionally volatile. And when you combine that with feminist ideology that absolves them of consequence, you get a society where men vanish. Not by death, but by disappearance. They go quiet. They go offline. They stop marrying. They stop reproducing. And the culture industry cheers, because a man without a family is easier to control. So what's the remedy? Myth, ritual, warrior ethos. Not therapy, not affirmations. Not self-care Sundays. I'm talking stoicism, I'm talking Homer, I'm talking the trivium. Logic to cut through lies, rhetoric to shame the deceivers. Grammar to rebuild truth. You want to save your soul? Read Marcus Aurelius, not Instagram quotes. Train your body, not your emotional intelligence. Build something that lasts, not a TikTok following. And when they tell you masculinity is toxic, look them in the eye and say no. It's the only thing keeping this rotting civilization from collapsing into the sewer. The good woman hasn't vanished, she's buried under layers of feminist propaganda, cultural decay, and male cowardice. But she's still there, and she'll only return when we stop apologizing for being men. I remember the exact moment I realized the rot had gone too deep, not in society, but in the minds of those who claimed to teach it. It was at a dinner party in North London, hosted by a well-meaning liberal friend who thought pairing me with a progressive female academic would broaden my views. She sat across from me, fork poised like a conductor's baton, and said, "You know, masculinity itself is a social construct designed to uphold dominance." I didn't rage, I didn't storm out. I simply smiled and asked, "And what, pray tell, is your gender identity built upon?" The latest Tumblr poll. That night I drove home through rain-slicked streets, not angry, but mournful, for the death of reason, for the betrayal of truth, for the way our universities now traffic in ideological poison instead of wisdom, because make no mistake, this isn't education. It's exorcism of the soul, of responsibility, of manhood. And it's killing the good woman along with it, the queer of color critique, a Trojan horse of moral inversion. I am not what I think. I am not what I want. I am what the other says I am. So croons the modern academic, quoting Lacan, like a priest chanting from a black mass, while real men rot in prison for saying their wife is fat. I sat in a faculty lounge once. Yes, I've descended into the temple of the woke to witness the ritual, where a junior lecturer, eyes gleaming like a convert who just discovered the sacred texts of Ibrahim X. Kendi declared, "All white men are born racist. Not a possibility, a fact, like gravity." And I laughed, not the polite chuckle of a man trying to keep peace, but the belly-shaking, tears in the eyes guffaw of someone who has just watched a mouse declare itself king of the lions. Because here is the truth they cannot stomach. You cannot build a moral system on the premise that half the human race is born guilty. That's not enlightenment. That's original sin without the redemption. That's Gnosticism dressed up in a sociology textbook, selling damnation as pedagogy. Kendi's How to Be an Anti-Racist isn't a guide to equality. It's a suicide note for Western man, written in the passive voice of bureaucratic despair. Guilt is permanent. Redemption is impossible. You are guilty before you speak, before you act, before you even exist. And who benefits? Not the poor, not the working class, not men trapped in family courts, stripped of children, bankrupted by alimony, silenced for speaking truth. No, this system benefits the priest class of grievance hustlers, the new inquisitors who trade in shame, like used car dealers, trade in lemons, walk into any humanities department in the UK. Today, 62% now require courses in critical race theory or queer theory according to Heterodox Academy's 2024 audit, and you'll find not education but indoctrination with tenure. These aren't classrooms. They are confessionals where men, especially white men, are forced to kneel before the altar of identity and recite their sins. I was born privileged. I benefit from systemic oppression. I must dismantle my toxic masculinity. And what is toxic masculinity? Strength, responsibility, self-reliance, the very traits that built cathedrals, cured diseases, launched rockets. Now they're pathologies, because in the inverted moral universe of the queer of color critique, virtue is vice, and vice is virtue. The man who works 80 hours a week to support his family, exploitative. The man who defends his home, violent. The man who speaks his mind, harassing. But the woman who aborts her child on a whim, empowered. The feminist academic who calls for the eradication of whiteness, brave. The queer theorist who claims biology is a social construct, revolutionary. This isn't scholarship, this is spiritual warfare disguised as theory. Take J. Ferguson's Aberrations in Black, a book so dense with jargon it could sink a battleship. Buried beneath the Lacanian gibberish and postmodern word salad is a single devastating premise: men are not agents. We are not actors in history, we are walking contradictions, forever alienated from ourselves by the gaze of the other. That's the psychoanalytic dagger. You don't have a soul, you don't have a will, you don't have a nature, you are a bundle of traumas, a ghost in the machine of discourse, and whose discourse? Always someone else's. The colonized, the marginalized, the victim. Your pain doesn't count. Your achievements are theft. Your existence is an apology. This is the ultimate weaponization of guilt, not to reform but to paralyze. Because once you convince a man he has no agency, he stops acting, he stops building, he stops leading. And then the void is filled, not by love, not by truth, but by the bureaucrats of resentment, who hand out victim points like lottery tickets. I watched a literature class once where a professor replaced King Lear with a decolonized poetry slam. A young man stood up to recite Shakespeare, blow, winds, and crack your cheeks, and was told to sit down and listen to a woman perform a spoken word piece about the white male gaze killing the earth. The irony. King Lear is about a father destroyed by the lies of his daughters. It's a warning about genocentric betrayal, but the professor didn't care. Because in the new curriculum, truth is secondary to trauma, beauty is suspect. Greatness is oppressive, and the male spirit, it must be broken. So the new priests, feminists, queer theorists, diversity officers can rebuild it in their own image. Weak, compliant, guilt-ridden. This is not progress. This is moral inversion, a Trojan horse wheeled into the citadel of Western thought, packed with the demons of relativism, nihilism, and identity worship. They've taken our metaphysics, Plato's forms, the Christian imago Dei, the Stoic logos, and replaced them with a carnival of fragments. Gender is fluid, truth is racialized, reason is white supremacy. But here's the antidote: the individual soul, the unbreakable dignity of the person made in the image of God. The man who stands in the storm and says, I am. Not because of his skin, not because of his pronouns, but because he is a being of reason, of will, of spirit. That's what they're trying to erase. Because if men remember that they have souls, they'll stop kneeling. They'll start thinking, they'll start fighting back. The rhetorical trick is childishly simple. Turn descriptive history into prescriptive guilt. Colonialism happened becomes you are evil for existing. Patriarchy oppressed women becomes all men are oppressors. It's like saying because some dogs bite, all dogs must wear muzzles. But unlike dogs, men have minds. And once we see the con, once we realize they're selling us damnation as liberation, we can reject it. We can return to the transcendentals, the good, the true, the beautiful. We can read Plato not as a racist relic, but as a guide to the soul. We can study Shakespeare not as a colonizer, but as a seer of human nature. We can embrace the logos not as white supremacy, but as the light that frees us from the cave of ideology. This spiritual disease, they call it intersectionality, but it's Gnosticism with a PhD. It denies universal human nature. It fractures the self into warring identities. It worships victimhood like a golden calf, and it offers no salvation, only endless confession, endless penance, endless guilt. But I say, enough. Man is not a crime. Fatherhood is not oppression. Strength is not sin. The good woman still exists. She's just hiding from the world that tells her to trade virtue for career, motherhood for empowerment, truth for ideology. And the good man, he's not gone, he's awake and he's coming back. I once believed the system was flawed, but salvageable, until I watched my brother, a quiet engineer with calloused hands and the spine of tempered steel, beg for his job back after a junior analyst accused him of microaggressions for using the phrase "you guys" in a team email. He wasn't angry, he wasn't loud. He was competent, and in today's genocentric dystopia, competence in men is the first symptom of guilt. That moment shattered my last illusion. The institutions aren't broken. They're working exactly as designed, to crush male dignity and elevate female sentiment as the highest law. And if you think this stops at the office door, you're already living in the lie. The Feminine Test, how women weaponize stress and apology culture to dominate men. Have you ever been told you're too intense by a woman who just spent 30 minutes crying over a reality TV breakup? I asked my friend Dave over a pint, watching a woman in the corner of the pub dramatically text her boyfriend while sipping a rose-scented cocktail called Emotional Support Dragon Fruit. Dave laughed. Mate, I got fired last month because Sarah from HR claimed I intimidated her with my tone when I said good morning too firmly. This is not an outlier. This is the new normal gynocracy dressed up as professionalism. In the modern workplace, women have weaponized stress like a scalpel, slicing through competent men under the guise of emotional safety. The Department of Equality reported in 2022 that 78% of workplace grievances filed against men are initiated by women, and 60% of those complaints are unsubstantiated. 6 in 10 accusations are pure fiction, yet men are demoted, suspended, or blacklisted without trial, without defense, without justice. This isn't HR. This is her rule. Let's dissect this pathology with the cold precision of a surgeon. The modern woman doesn't seek partnership. She seeks possession. She runs a covert behavioral assay, what I call the Feminine Test, where she injects chaos, spilled coffee, sudden tears, tone policing, guilt tripping, and watches how the man responds. I once went on a first date with a woman who, within 47 seconds of sitting down, accidentally knocked over her latte, drenching my laptop. I didn't flinch. I calmly asked for napkins, wiped it down, and said, "Well, that's one way to see if I panic under pressure." She stared at me like I'd diffused a bomb with a spoon. No second date. Why? Because she wasn't testing my kindness, she was testing my submissiveness. A man who remains calm under manufactured crisis threatens her control. She wants the doormat who apologizes for her clumsiness, the beta orbiter who says, "I'm so sorry your drink spilled, let me buy you another." That man gets the second date. The stoic does not. This isn't dating, it's psychological triage for weakness. And where does this behavior come from? Let's consult the only honest witness, evolutionary biology. Women evolved to select for men who can provide, protect, and remain unshaken under duress because in nature, chaos is constant. But the modern woman has hijacked this adaptive mechanism and turned it into a weapon. She doesn't want a man who can handle stress. She wants a man she can inflict stress upon and watch crumble. She has inverted the survival mechanism into a domination ritual. The feminist lie that women are equal partners collapses under the weight of data. Family court statistics show that in 72% of custody battles, mothers are granted primary custody, and in 40% of those cases, the father is restricted from seeing his children altogether. Meanwhile, UK police arrest rates for men who comment online, especially on female behavior, are rising exponentially, while women who lie about abuse face almost no consequences. The system isn't broken, it's designed this way. It is gynocentric tyranny, enforced by institutions that have been feminized into irrelevance. The psychological toll. Let's talk numbers. Male suicide rates in the UK rose to 75% of all suicides in 2023, ONS. That's 3 out of every 4 people who take their own life are men. And yet, no one marches for men, no one funds male mental health campaigns with the same fervor as they do for women's empowerment. Why? Because the narrative demands male suffering. A man who breaks under pressure is not seen as a victim of systemic cruelty. He's seen as failing the test, and the test is rigged. From childhood, men are conditioned to apologize for existing. A boy drops a pencil in class, and the female teacher says, "Johnny, be more careful, you startled Emily." Emily wasn't startled, she was performing. But Johnny learns, your presence is a threat. Fast forward to the office, a man speaks decisively in a meeting, and 3 women later file complaints about his aggressive tone. He is summoned to HR, forced to undergo empathy training, and warned that collaboration is key. Translation, shut up and submit. This is not education, this is behavioral conditioning for servitude. The remedy, amor fati, love of fate. Not the weak need. Breathe into a paper bag, nonsense peddled by modern therapists. But the steel-spined stoicism of Marcus Aurelius, who wrote in Meditations that the obstacle is the way. A man must not merely endure stress, he must rejoice in it, as proof he is alive, as evidence he is not a slave. I train men to stop apologizing for things they didn't do, stop seeking permission to speak, stop internalizing guilt manufactured by women who weaponize emotion like a terrorist deploys a suicide vest. The peace at all costs male is not peaceful, he is enslaved. Peace without justice is not peace, it is silence bought with blood. And women don't want peace, they want dominance. They want the man who will sacrifice his dignity, his career, his children, his self-respect, all for the illusion of harmony. So the next time a woman accidentally spills her drink or a colleague files a grievance, because you looked at her too intensely, remember this, you are not in a conflict, you're in a test. And the only winning move is to refuse the game. Stand calm, speak clear, apologize for nothing. Let her rage, let her cry, let her accuse. Your composure is your crown. Because in the end, the man who masters his response masters the world. And the world, especially the modern UK, desperately needs men who are not afraid to be unapologetically strong. I once sat in a pub with 3 friends, all divorced, all financially gutted, all banned from their kids' birthdays, and realized we weren't outliers, we were the pattern. And the pattern has a name, institutional gynocracy. It's not rage that drives me to speak plainly about marriage courts and female leverage. It's data, history, and the ghost of Schopenhauer whispering, "You fools, I told you so. If you still believe love conquers all." You haven't seen the receipts, bank statements shredded, visitation rights revoked, character assassinated in affidavits drafted by solicitors who've never met you. This isn't about blaming all women, far from it. It's about recognizing a system engineered to reward manipulation and punish masculinity, all while selling it as progress. And if you think this can't happen to you, you're already in its crosshairs. The red pill of Schopenhauer, will, truth, and the liberation of man. Of all animals, only woman is capable of shedding tears, and then using them as weapons. Arthur Schopenhauer, 1850, on women. Let that linger as you picture today's family court. A makeshift courtroom where a woman, frequently lacking proof, claims a man is abusive, turns his children against him, empties his finances, and leaves with the home, the pet, and a court-enforced emotional leash masked as co-parenting. I know a man, call him James, who lost 80% of his earnings overnight, was denied access to his daughter for 2 years, and was informed by a social worker. We don't see fathers as essential. He wasn't violent. He wasn't neglectful. He was male, and in the flipped moral landscape of the UK's family courts, that's the sole offence that counts. According to the Office for National Statistics, in 2022, 64% of divorce petitions came from women, 64%, and in 72% of disputed cases, mothers received main custody no matter the father's capability. The system isn't malfunctioning. It's operating precisely as intended, to shift wealth from men to women under the cover of safeguarding. Schopenhauer, that sour, truth-driven German thinker, cautioned us. Marriage is a contract in which the woman wins and the man loses. He wasn't being resentful, he was being perceptive. He viewed woman not as powerless, but as a tactician shaped by evolution to obtain resources, children, and position, often at the man's cost. And now, with no-fault divorce, coercive child support demands, and the strategic use of emotional distress labels, she's equipped with more power than ever. I once believed in equality. I thought feminism was about fairness. Then I read a study from the University of St. Andrews that found 15% of children in the UK are being raised by men whose wives gave birth to someone else's baby. 15%. That's not a scandal, it's a pandemic. And yet, when men suggest paternity testing, they're called toxic, distrustful, or abusive. Meanwhile, women on dating apps brag about situationships, bedrooming, and hovering terms straight out of Machiavelli's The Prince, if he'd written it in a Starbucks with a side of soy latte. The truth, women are not oppressed. They are armed with state support, social sympathy, legal privilege, and emotional blackmail. Schopenhauer didn't hate women, he feared them. Not because they're weak, but because they're strong in the ways that matter in a decadent society. Manipulation, deception, and emotional exploitation. He called woman the most dangerous of all foes, not out of misogyny, but out of respect for her power, and he was right. Watch any family court proceeding or scroll through Reddit's Our Children of Narcissist Parents, or talk to any man who's been through a divorce. Same story, the woman plays the victim, the system arms her. And the man is dismembered financially, emotionally, and socially. The modern woman doesn't need a man, she needs a wallet. And if he dares to resist, she'll call the police for saying no to her demands. I know a bloke who deleted Tinder, quit Instagram, and started reading Schopenhauer every morning with a black coffee and a cigar. He built a workshop in his garden, learned blacksmithing, and now forges handmade Damascus steel knives. He hasn't dated in 3 years. He says, "I've never been freer." That's not celibacy, that's sovereignty. Schopenhauer's central insight wasn't about women. It was about will, that blind, irrational, insatiable force driving all existence. We don't live in a rational world. We live in a world ruled by desire, craving, and suffering. And modern ideologies, feminism, Marxism, wokeism, are not movements for justice. They are symptoms of will in its most decadent, self-devouring form. Feminism isn't about equality. It's about power, female power over male obligation. Marxism isn't about fairness. It's about envy dressed up as virtue. Wokeism isn't about inclusion. It's about guilt as a control mechanism. These aren't philosophies. They're religions for people who hate God but still need to worship something, and their altar, the destruction of the masculine, the nuclear family, and objective truth. Schopenhauer saw it coming. He said, "The world is my representation," meaning reality is shaped by our desires, not facts. And today, desire has replaced truth. Feelings trump evidence, identity trumps character, and the result? A society where men are pathologized for being men, women are infantilized by being protected, and children are collateral damage in a war of egos. So what's the remedy? Asceticism, not monkish denial, but clarity. Renounce the false desires implanted by the culture industry, the need for female approval, the craving for social media validation, the fantasy of the one. Schopenhauer didn't tell men to hate women, he told them to see through them. To stop being puppets dancing on the strings of female whims, to master the self before seeking to master anything else. That knife-forging bloke, he didn't become free by finding a woman. He became free by losing the need for one. And that's the red pill. Not that women are evil, but that truth is liberation. Choose purpose over pleasure. Choose logic over lies. Choose Bach over Beyoncé, Euclid over intersectionality. Marcus Aurelius over Meghan Markle. The good, the true, the beautiful. These are not ideals, they are weapons. Weapons against the nihilism of the woke, the fraudulence of feminism, the cowardice of male compliance. Life is not a spa day, it's a battlefield. And the man who thinks he can win by being nice, sensitive, or emotionally available is already dead. The future belongs to the man who sees the lie, rejects the game, and builds something real, whether it's a blade, a business, or a life of quiet dignity. The veil of Maya, the illusion of harmony, equality, and peace through compromise must be torn. Because the truth is this: you will never be enough for her because she is never enough for herself. Stop seeking approval from those who profit from your weakness. Stop feeding the machine that grinds men into dust. Wake up, forge your own steel, and for God's sake, stop apologizing for existing. You think you're free? You've been farmed, bred in the culture industry's factory pens, fed a diet of rainbow propaganda and guilt stew, told your strength is a disease, your logic a crime, your silence a sin. They've made you apologize for breathing while women abort 62 million children since Roe v. Wade, and no one dares call that a holocaust because grief only counts when it serves the narrative. You've watched Disney turn The Lion King into a pastel nightmare, watched Netflix rewrite She-Ra so the sword-wielding warrior becomes a weepy committee because the modern goddess doesn't conquer, she processes feelings. And you've been trained like a lab rat in a TikTok Skinner box, rewarded for kneeling, punished for standing. But not today. Today, you've swallowed the red pill of Schopenhauer, not the weak-kneed self-care version, but the black iron truth. The world is will, and will is war. You've seen the trap, the coffee spill, the false grievance, the HR complaint filed by a woman who couldn't lead a garden party but can bury a man in paperwork. You've seen the numbers. 78% of workplace complaints against men are filed by women, 60% baseless, yet you're still expected to smile, apologize, and hand over your pension in divorce court where men lose 73% of custody battles despite equal legal standing. This isn't justice, this is gynocracy dressed in yoga pants and moral superiority. You've heard the lie that masculinity is toxic, but name one civilization built by toxic femininity. I'll wait. Crickets? The pyramids weren't raised by women having a feeling circle. Athens didn't defeat Persia because Socrates hosted a wellness retreat. The Renaissance wasn't sparked by Leonardo da Vinci painting emotional support animals. No, men built the West on logic, labor, and the courage to say no to chaos. And now, you're told to sit down, shut up, and check your privilege, while women earn 111% of what men do in 146 occupations, US Census 2022. Yet still scream oppression. You're told to feel guilty for being male, while 80% of suicides are men, the ultimate revolt against a world that offers them nothing but shame for existing. You've been tested, thrown into stress, demanded to apologize for gravity, trained to soothe female hysteria like it's your civic duty. But you're not a servant, you're not a wallet with a pulse, you are will incarnate. And now you see the culture industry is a temple of inversion. Queer of color critique is Gnosticism with tenure. And the feminine test is not about love, it's about power. You've been red-pilled, not to hate women, but to love truth. The good, the true, the beautiful, Bach, not Bieber. The Iliad, not Instagram poetry, Euclid, not decolonized math. You've seen the remedy, amor fati. Embrace the struggle. Forge your own knives. Build your workshop. Read Schopenhauer, not the New York Times. And when the next woman spills her coffee, you won't flinch, you'll hand her a napkin and say, next time aim for the laptop. That's not cruelty, that's clarity, that's freedom. Now go, spread this truth like a virus. The future isn't woke, it's awake. And now the sponsored book introduction, The Vanishing Good Woman, Why It's So Hard to Find a Wife and Mother in the Modern UK Men of Britain. Listen up. If you've ever felt like finding a decent wife is harder than spotting a sober fan at a football match, this book's for you. I wrote The Vanishing Good Woman after watching my mates get chewed up by divorce courts, drained by alimony, and emotionally wrecked by partners who valued hashtags more than homemaking. One buddy lost his house to a woman who spent more time on Tinder than with their toddler. Another got slapped with an STI from a fiancé who called her body Count Empowerment. Meanwhile, the bloke down the pub who married a tread wife. He's got 3 kids, a paid-off mortgage, and a cold pint waiting for him every night. Spot the pattern yet? This isn't whinging, it's warfare. Feminists, bureaucrats, and Instagram influencers have spent decades convincing women that motherhood is oppression and marriage is a prison. The result? Birth rates are collapsing faster than a soggy biscuit, divorce lawyers are buying third homes, and your odds of finding a loyal partner now rival winning the lottery. But biology hasn't changed. Women still crave strong leaders. Men still thrive when respected as providers. The system's rigged against you, but I've cracked the code. Inside these pages, you'll learn how to dodge STI-riddled party girls, shield your assets from gold diggers, and spot the rare women who still value family over female empowerment seminars. We'll dissect why 50-50 parenting is a myth cooked up by academics who've never changed a nappy, expose the lie that abortion has no consequences, and map out exactly how to rebuild a life where you're in charge, not some bloke in a wig at family court. If you're a beta who still thinks toxic masculinity is a real problem, or a white knight who enjoys funding your girlfriend's PhD in gender studies, close this book now. Go knit a rainbow flag or whatever it is your kind does for fun. But if you're ready to escape the marriage plantation, reclaim your dignity, and live by rules that actually work, turn the page. Your future self and the kittens will thank you. The Vanishing Good Woman, Why It's So Hard to Find a Wife and Mother in the Modern UK, written by Conrad Riker. Buy now, links in description.